All right, when we practiced the gradient tool for the first time, what we were doing was just figuring out where it was, how to turn on the settings, what kind of linear and radial gradient settings there are. And then we talked about the annotator angle, which means that you can apply a gradient to something, but you're restricted to this bar. You can change the angle, you can change the width, but sometimes you want to create something that's a little bit more adjustable and has more variety. So that's where the freeform gradient tool and the mesh gradient tool come in. So we're going to go ahead first by selecting our first rectangle shape, and we're going to come over here to the gradient tool and we're going to click down. When you go into your properties and you click on this box, the gradient option button is down here and it opens this panel for you. So we've practiced linear, we've practiced radial. Now let's try freeform. So I'm going to double click on that. And you have 4 buckets. Now you can add buckets, and you can also take them away by highlighting them and throwing them in the trash. So let's go ahead with this first one. I'm going to double click and choose a color. I'm going to double click this one and choose a color. I'll double click here and choose a color. And then lastly, okay, so that looks right. Okay, I have my colors. Now I can go back and change it by editing or turning the gradient on again after I've selected the object. So if you want to go back and edit, you can. I'm going to go ahead and grab my circle. I'm going to turn on my gradient and double click on freeform. This one gives you less circles, so you might want to add additional ones. All right, good. Now these look nice, but this black outline is distracting. So I'm going to take my selection tool, glide it across both of them, and turn off my stroke. Okay. It's important that when you click on this third rectangle, so I'm clicked on here, that you go from stroke to now fill. Make sure that fill is turned on the top, not the stroke, because it's going to be difficult to apply the gradient to it. I'm going to grab my gradient tool. I'm going to click down, double click, and I'm going to change the colors. I'm going to actually make this one mostly greens. As you can tell, I like turquoisey colors and lighter colors. Some of you might like darker colors, and that's completely fine. We all have our own preferences. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and deselect it. Select it one more time and turn that stroke off. Okay, we are going to be creating things that are going to go on top of this, and I'm going to be using selection tools for that. So that I don't end up grabbing this background by mistake, I'm going to go over to my layers and I'm going to lock this layer and make an additional one that's going to be for my shapes that I'm about to build. So we're going to start by using the pencil. So the pencil is something that we've been using, and it should be underneath your paintbrush. So go ahead and grab that and then just make your blob. Okay, you can adjust these anchor points now if you wanted to come in here and kind of make it look more blobby, I guess you could say, so it's not so circular, because sometimes the pencil can get a little too smooth and make it not look as organic. So I'm gonna just kind of mess around with the outside here. All right, and I'm gonna add a white fill because that doesn't matter. I'm gonna end up using my gradient. Now, we're not using the regular gradient for this one. We're gonna use what's called the mesh tool. Now, the mesh tool, I believe, should be automatically added to your defaulted essential artboard, but in case this is not here, you can click on the 3 dots, grab it here, and bring it up and put it onto the toolbar. But mine was already on, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. And then with this having a fill, it must have a fill, I'm going to click this 3 to 4 times. Don't click too many times because you're going to end up with a really choppy gradient, and it's also going to mess up the computer. It just takes too much memory, okay? Because you have to remember, it's putting it around a 3-dimensional object, okay? Or what is going to look like a 3-dimensional object. Now, you can use your white arrow 2 different ways. You can either select the anchors individually, so if you wanted to do like one spotlight of a color, or if you come from the outside and you drag a selection across a series of anchor points, see how they turn dark red? You can then apply a color to those. And I'm going to try to stick close to the colors I have in the background so that it kind of cohesively goes together. So let me grab some greener colors. There we go. And the bigger the selection you make, the bigger the area is that's going to house those colors. So I made a bigger selection that time, so my colors ended up spreading out a little bit more than the last time. Okay, you turn it back on by clicking. I'm going to create a highlighted area up here. Having a little lighter edge on some of the areas is actually kind of cool because it makes it look like it's popping out. I like that actually. Not quite. It's just experimenting, figuring out what looks good, what doesn't. I'm actually sort of liking this the way it is. I don't want to mess with this too much more. Maybe change this to a little bit of a darker blue, because somehow it created this really pretty like divot here. So I'm going to leave that, okay? And then I'm going to make it smaller. So I'm going to grab my black arrow key and hold Option Shift to kind of move it over, okay? Now you can use the pencil, which I kind of like the most because it allows you to really make the shape. Or you could even use a circle to start and leave it a circle like this sphere. You can grab the white arrow and you can start kind of adjusting this as well. So it's up to you. As long as there's a fill, you come over here with the mesh and click again, and then just use the same tools that you used before. So I'm gonna select the pink, maybe do a lighter blue, almost white. And then maybe focus on a dark area. Now, I have found that sometimes when you're doing this, your color panel will suddenly look like a black and white panel. You can go ahead and adjust it back to CMYK, or you can just go over here to your color swatches and double click on them. So it doesn't look like much is changing. Let me try. There we go. Okay, nice. All right, I'd like you to experiment with at least 2, so that would be good, just 2 different blobs. Once you're done, you're gonna file, save as a Illustrator file, and then file, export as a ping, and turn the ping in to me on Canvas.